But today, yeah, I thought we'd wrap it all up by building a link and bio site together. And we're also going to go through a little bit more of GitHub stuff. We're not going to do like, full Git commands and all that. We're going to use GitHub Desktop initially as a kind of a light introduction to Git. So that's kind of what to expect. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just start sharing my screen and we can probably kick it off. Cool. So yeah, so as mentioned, today is the conclusion of our HTML CSS unit. Thanks to everyone that has been sticking with us so far. And thanks to everyone, of course, for the feedback. Feedback's been super helpful here as we kind of work on this curriculum together. So there's no change log for this time. We didn't really change much from last time, so I didn't include that. Instead, I'll just go ahead and start with the recap. So last time we did cover a lot of the basic building blocks of HTML and CSS. Namely, we talked about HTML structure, tags and elements, HTML text, and we also talked about the basics of CSS. Sorry, my cat is back being annoying. And we talked about selectors, we talked about properties, values, styling text, and at the end, at the homework, we also said that if you do have time to download GitHub Desktop, I'll go ahead and share a link to that in the chat if you haven't gotten the chance to download GitHub Desktop yet. But it should come in handy for today's session because, yeah, we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna be building something together, and it's, of course, it might be easier to follow along as we build it, but of course, since this is recorded, you can just follow the recording there as well. So. Yeah, I just posted a link to that in the chat if you do want to download GitHub Desktop beforehand. Cool. So yeah, the agenda is pretty straightforward today. There's not a lot of like lectures and topics. Instead, we're going to kind of put a lot of what we've learned together in the form of a project. And this project is we're going to be building a link and bio site. We're going to build it from scratch, and then we're going to publish it with GitHub Desktop and GitHub Pages. I know we kind of did a little bit of that last Thursday, but honestly, I rushed through it a lot, so there wasn't a lot of clarity there. Today, we're going to basically revisit that, the deployment process, and hopefully by the end, we can all have nice link and bio sites that we can use for social media. Cool. So just a quick, I guess, just to kind of pull up examples of like, visually what this is going to look like. It's not going to look exactly like this or like any of these. We're going to, do a pretty simple one originally. But this is basically the format of a link and bio site, right? It's like you have this header section, which has this image and your name or your role or some bio or whatever. And then you have these links under it, right? So it's fairly straightforward. Another thing to note is that this is a mobile-friendly site. So we are going to talk a little bit about like responsive web development. Responsive web development, for those that don't know, is basically making websites that work well on phone and desktop. And to be honest, because I think 60% of websites are viewed on people's phones, it's very important that our website looks good on all devices, right? We can't just build something on our computer, publish it, and have it look terrible on a phone, right? Just because we know that so many people are going to visit our site on a mobile device. So, a link in bio site is designed to be mobile first. So that's kind of some context there. Cool. Let me also start my screen clicker. Oops. There we go. Okay. There. Cool. I just started capturing my keystrokes. Cool. So let's go ahead and just dive into it. This is probably going to take up the majority of today. So what I want us to do, like last time, is we need to, well, first let's just go through the setup together. If you do have GitHub Desktop, go ahead and open that because we're actually going to initialize the project in GitHub Desktop first. And if you don't have it downloaded, let me know and we can pause for like a minute or so and let everyone get that set up. But you should have something that looks like this if you did download GitHub Desktop. Let me make this a little bigger. There we go. All right. Pause for a sec. Yep, no problem. We can definitely pause. It might take a second also to download GitHub Desktop, and you might have to log into GitHub as well. So I'll give us some time to do that. I'll set up a quick timer just so we're all good. Let's go ahead and set that timer for like a minute, 30 seconds. And just let me know if that's not enough time. We can extend that. Let me think. Oopsies. So someone said, how did you get this page? Oh, sorry. I already have like a repository connected already. So I probably shouldn't have said your screen's going to look exactly like this. It's probably going to be like more blank. So don't worry if you don't see this exact project. Like this is just a project that I happen to have open. So don't worry if it's not lining up there. I wonder if there's a way for me to delete both of these. Let me just remove these. Cool. Oopsies. Cool. How's everyone doing? Are we set up with GitHub Desktop? If not, I can. Happy to wait a little longer, but it looks like that minute 30 is up. Just want to do a quick pulse check. If we're all good, then we can go ahead and continue. Awesome. All set up. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Sounds good. Good thing we're all here. Cool. Let's go ahead and yep. Yeah. So yeah, I guess I lied. Your screen's not going to look exactly like this one because I already have some projects in here. But what you're basically going to want to look for is you're going to want to basically create a new repository. So if there's an option in your GitHub desktop to basically, create new repository, go ahead and click that. Mine is going to be here. If you click this add button, there's like a create new repository option, but yours might look something different. So I'm going to create a new repository. Cool. So you should see a menu that kind of looks like this. If not, do let me know. But just to kind of recap from last Thursday, repositories are basically the bread and butter of GitHub, right? Every project, every website, every app you make is basically going to be a new repository. So they're kind of like projects in the sense. So that's what a repository is. In this case, we're creating a link in bio site. So we can just call our repository link in bio, but of course the titling doesn't matter here. You're free to call it whatever you want. And then you can leave the description blank. This is totally up to you. Like if you want to fill this out, I mean, for now, maybe we'll just say a simple link in bio site, but it doesn't matter. You can leave this blank. Okay, so for this option, the local path, you're going to basically, what this is asking for essentially is what folder do you want to create this repository under? So we talked a little about this last time where I kind of recommended to create a folder that holds all of your Bootcamp projects or all of your coding projects. So on my computer, that folder just happens to be called Bootcamp projects. But you're welcome to call yours projects or Bootcamp, anything along those lines, it doesn't matter. But essentially you want to select that folder that contains your other projects, right? Hopefully that makes sense. So mine's called Bootcamp projects. And then you don't have to touch these options. Like a README is basically just like an informational file that talks about like the project. We don't really need that in this case. A git ignore, we'll get into like what a git ignore is a little bit more later once we do like more advanced git stuff. But in short, a git ignore is a file that basically says like, here's what I don't want to move to Git. So Zubby says, I am lost. No worries, Zubby. Do you, is there something like, are you struggling with the GitHub desktop part, or how can I help here? Yeah, I guess I'll just pause here for a second. If you are like having trouble or just like a step that you're not quite getting, do let me know so we can go ahead and address it. And I can't download the GitHub desktop. What operating system are you using? I think GitHub desktop, it should be. Let's see. Let me check it out too. I mean, I'm on a Mac, so it's automatically going to say download for Mac, but there should be like a Windows version or a Linux version. Is that, yeah, I'm curious which operating system you're using, and is there like an error you're seeing, or also a quick note on installation stuff. I installation stuff is always really tricky, honestly, when we're starting out because everyone's has different computers. It's just installation setup of these tools can definitely be frustrating. So I totally relate there. I do want to say that uh, we do have like a good amount to go through. Um, so I don't want to like rush you through anything. But that being said, if you're still having trouble with the setup, it might be something that it's easier for us to debug offline. And okay, cool. It sounds like it's done now. Cool. Yeah, just let us know if you're having any other installation problems, and happy to dive into those. Bread Girl asks, can you repeat, are we creating a new repository after opening Git? Yes, someone answered that, but correct. We're trying to, after you download GitHub Desktop, we're going to create a new repository. So once again, basically the important things to fill out are just the name. You just need to fill out the name, and you need to also do the local path here. Make sure the local path is set to the folder that contains all of your projects. So in this example, all my Bootcamp projects are in a folder called Bootcamp projects. So make sure you just select that folder. No worries for the late arrival. We just kind of started off here. If you are just catching up, just download GitHub Desktop, or if you already have that installed, go ahead and create a new repository and fill in the name here and select your folder with all your projects. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and move on. Hopefully, and do let me know if I'm going too fast. But yeah, I'm also trying to be considerate of time and make sure we can't get through everything. And all of this is also recorded, so if you do find yourself like overwhelmed or not able to keep up, feel free to consult the recordings as well. That could help. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and create the repository here. Cool. So now I have this new repository called Link in Bio. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And you should see something like this, right? It should say nothing. It should say no local changes, right? For y'all, you can go ahead and click Open in VS Code, which should automatically open this folder in Visual Studio Code if that is the editor you're using. If you're not using Visual Studio Code or using a different version of Visual Studio Code like I am, feel free to click the Show in Finder, or maybe for Windows it's like Show in Explorer or something like that. So go ahead and basically open this project in your code editor, either by clicking this button or by clicking this button and dragging it in. So it should be blank. You should basically see nothing in the project. So I'm going to go ahead and take my folder and drag it into my editor. I also can't. I can't see. My cat is sitting in front of the keyboard. One second. Actually, I'm just going to go into my Visual Studio Code. Yes, it is going to be. That's true. There is technically a file in there called Git attributes. But it's interesting, like I think for Mac and maybe Windows as well, like that file is hidden in Finder, but it's visible in your code editor. So it's kind of weird. But yes, that is true. If you see a file called Git attributes, don't worry, that's totally normal. But those files are hidden in Finder. So if you're wondering why don't show up there. Cool, I'm gonna go ahead and open the folder in my code editor. So I'm gonna go to my Bootcamp projects, link in bio. Should we install and git an extension on VS Code? Yeah, you're totally open. You're totally welcome to. It's not required for today. We'll probably use that extension a lot more next week once we do a more advanced Git stuff. GitHub desktop is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for us for Git. So if you do have that installed, like, you know, that's totally cool. We're probably just not going to make a lot of use of that today. Okay, cool. How's everyone? Hopefully we have the folder loaded up in VS Code. Let me know if that's not working for you. But we're going to go ahead and get started with creating our index.html file. So our base file for the website. So I'm going to go ahead and click on, also let me make this a little bigger too. Oopsies. 1 second. I didn't mean that. Okay. I made my visuals, I made my code editor full screen. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. So click this icon right here up on the top left corner. If you're using default Visual Studio Code, create a new file called index.html, right? Same as last time. Okay, cool. So once again, same as last time, we're gonna go and run through and put together our basic HTML structure. So normally this is something I copy and paste just because it's a good amount of text to type, but let's go ahead and type it out together. So just as a quick refresher, we're gonna start out with our doc type declaration. So doc type HTML. So this is just the very first line in HTML that basically all HTML pages have. Next, we're going to follow up with our root HTML tag. So this is kind of the tag that everything else lives under. And then we're going to go ahead and create our head tag inside our HTML. For now, you can leave this blank, or we can maybe just create a title in there. As a reminder, the title is going to be the same text that shows up on the top of the tab if you're using Chrome. So this is just like the title of the web page. So let's just say link in bio site. Or if you are planning to use this for real, like if you don't have a link in bio site but you want one, you can also just make it your username. It doesn't really matter in this case. Okay, cool. So hopefully we're good there. I'm going to leave that head as is. I'm going to go ahead and now open up the body. And just as a refresher, the body of the HTML document, that's where all the visible content lives, right? Like all the images, all the header text, all the lists and all that, that's all going to be in the body. So I'm going to go ahead and create the body. Okay, cool. So what I'd like to do first, there's many different styles of writing HTML, but what I'd like to do first is to basically write out our whole layout of our link in bio site, and then we're going to style it. So first, let's go ahead and pull up our, let me go back and pull up a link in bio site example, just so we can remind ourselves what this layout is going to look like. Maybe this is a better example. Where did it go? Oh, here. Yeah, maybe this site on the, yeah, maybe this is like a better example. I don't know if you can see that, but this is a pretty simple link in bio site, right? So we're going to really just have two sections. The first section is the header section, and this is just it has the image of whoever's link in bio site you're making, and then a name or username under it. And then we have our link section, which is basically this list of links that hence the link in bio. So it's really just two sections. And yeah, this is basically the structure that we're going to be building today. Of course, there are many other fancy things you can do, but just to keep it simple, we're just going to run through something that looks very similar to this. Not exactly like this, but something similar to this. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and now put my browser on the left side and then my code editor on the right side. If you don't have the space to do that, feel free to have it separate. This is just my personal preference to easily have the code and then the preview side by side, make it easier to kind of see changes as they come. No, stop. My cat is disrupting. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, cool. How are we doing so far? Hopefully we're following along there. So first, let's go ahead and create our header section. So I'm going to go ahead and type header. We love cats. I love cats too, but they always they for some reason only like to bother me when I'm on stream. So it's pretty funny. Cool. So let's go ahead and create our header section, and this is a new tag for those who are following along the course. We haven't seen this tag yet, but basically this is just a way to name a section of the HTML. So it's specifically called header. There's not really that many special reasons why we use header. Like we can replace this with the generic like section tag like this. But one thing about HTML is that it's semantic, and that's basically just another fancy way of saying, if I call this header and then I give this file to someone else, like another developer on my team, it'll be easier for them to understand that this is the header because it's called header. Right, so that's kind of what we mean by the semantic aspect. So we have our little header here. And then I'm going to go ahead and now add our image. So an image, there are multiple ways to create images, but the best practice way is to use the img tag. So it's going to look something like this. Img source, src for source. And the source is gonna point to a link of the image. So if you have a image on your computer that you want to make the source, like let's say you download an image and put it in this folder. Let's pretend this image is called like, I don't know, avatar or something, avatar.jpg or something. You can get that image by doing avatar.jpg, assuming that avatar.jpg is in this folder, right? Since I'm lazy, I don't have an avatar on hand right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and just grab a placeholder image. So the easiest, there are many places to get placeholder images. You can go ahead and get the placeholder image here from UI avatars. Yeah, uiavatars.com. I'm gonna go ahead and paste this in the chat. Hey 21, what do you mean 8 as SWE? Oh, I think in my bio, I think I forgot to update that. But basically, it's just like I have 8 or more years of experience as a software engineer. SWE is just like a shorthand for software engineer. But I should probably change that because I guess only a lot of SWEs know that term. But yeah, it's not a very familiar acronym. No worries. Cool. So go ahead and go, if you're following along, go ahead and go to UI avatars. Do you mind if I ask some questions? Yeah, for sure. So the way we run this bootcamp is, we're walking through a project right now. So generally, I would like to answer questions that are relevant to the project as we go. That being said, at the end of the session, so basically like 30, 40 minutes from now, we have a Q&A session for like 15 minutes. And a lot of the questions that you might ask, if they're not like relevant to this project, I will definitely go ahead and answer them at the end. So hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, just to keep the flow of the class going, I'll try to kind of answer questions as they go. But if they're not related to the project, I'll probably try to push them off until the end if that's cool. Cool. So we're in the UI avatar site. And if you have your own image, like if you have a local image that you just want to drop in here, that's fine. But I like UI avatars because it's just a really easy way to get an image link made. So basically here, oops, sorry, I don't know if you guys can see this, but basically UI avatars /API, there's this like name, right? Name equals John Doe. If we click on this image, you'll see that it just basically does, it just turns your name into like just letters, right? So if your name is Zach Lee, it's going to say ZL, John Doe JD. It's just a placeholder, right? We're not really concerned with the real image right now. So this is just a really quick way to grab a placeholder. So go ahead and just copy this. Oops. Yeah, go ahead and just copy that image, or copy this link rather. And once you've copied that, go ahead and go into your image tag in the source and go ahead and just paste that in. And also feel free to change this to your own name. And if you do change it to your own name, make sure you have the plus. Links can't really have spaces like that, or it's like not really best practice to have spaces like that. So, my name is Zach Lee, so I'm just gonna do Zach plus Lee. Cool. And then we're going to go ahead and close this out by putting a backslash and then an end caret there. So let me make this a little easier to read. 1 second. Okay. Cool. So how are we doing so far? Are we following along still? We still have this image. Right now you should just basically have nothing in your HTML page besides the head, the body, and then this header with the image. And you can use any image you want, really. You don't have to use this one. Cool. So remember that our link in bio site, we now have our image, and now under that we're going to put our username or name. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this a header. We can do header 1, I guess. It doesn't really matter which header we use. So I'm going to do a header 1, and then I'm going to put my tag, I guess, which is Winquay. Oh, the Discord link in bio doesn't work. Oh no. What about the exclamation mark discard command? Let me know if that works. Sorry about that. I can fix that link in my bio afterwards. Yeah, let me know if that's still having issues. I might have put an expiring link or something. Sorry about that. Cool. So I'm just gonna I just went ahead and created our header tag and put my username, or you can put your name. Doesn't really matter. Oops. Okay. Cool. So very basic, right? So someone said, why do we not need to insert a line break before inserting H1? Yeah, that's a really good question. How to best explain this? So some elements are block elements. Some elements are inline. We only need the line break in an inline element. Inline meaning by default, it's all going to be in one line. But images here are block elements. So because an image is a block element, we don't necessarily, it's automatically going to have this line break for us. Yeah, that's probably not the best explanation, but just to avoid getting into like the deep complexities, basically for HTML, you just need to know that there are inline and block elements, and then the break tag only works for inline. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. Cool. So we have our header section. It's very simple, just the image and then our text. Now let's go ahead and create our link section. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this mockup that we're using. Right. So this is the link section, right? This list of links. We just kind of did the layout for this part. Now we're going to do this part. So for our link section, this part, I'm just going to call it a section, which again, this is semantic. You could use a div, you can use, any other kind of like similar block element here, but it just represents the section, right? This is the link section, so I call it a section. There's also my necklace is backwards. So we're going to call this the link section, and we're going to go ahead and just put a unordered list. So this is a HTML element that looks like this, UL, and UL stands for unordered list. So it's basically just a container for our list of items. And then inside the UL, typically you have a bunch of LIs. LIs standing for list elements. So whenever you're creating a list, you always have some container, which is a UL or a OL, depending on what kind of list you want. So UL is by default is going to have the dashes for each list element, and an OL is going to have numbers. So I'll show an example of that in a second. But for the UL, we're going to put a bunch of LI elements. And let's go ahead and create our first LI element, like that. And I'm going to go ahead and also put a link, right? And this is our first time creating a clickable link in our HTML. The links tags are kind of weird because they're not actually called link. You don't put this word link. Instead, you're going to put an A tag. So it just looks like this. So whenever you see an A tag that looks like this is like a clickable link in HTML. Why did they decide to name that? I'm not too sure. I guess it stands for anchor. Yeah, hypertext anchor. But yeah, I've always kind of wondered why they called it that. Cool. So for the A tag, we're going to use the href attribute. So the href is a built-in attribute for A tags. And href basically says, this is the link that I want it to go to when it gets clicked. So what website do you want this link to go to? Let's say for our first link, I'm going to put a link to my I don't know, my Twitch, I guess. So I'm going to put my Twitch link. So https://twitch.tv/Wenquei. Cool. So we went ahead and put our link there to my Twitch. Of course, you're welcome to use whatever you want, like TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. It's up to you. But I'm gonna go ahead and type in Twitch just because I want the text to say Twitch, right? But when you click it, it goes to my Twitch page. So I'm gonna go ahead and just copy and paste this link tag because I'm lazy. I'm gonna go ahead and let's just, it doesn't matter how many you create. I'm gonna go ahead and just create 3. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it once, paste it twice. And then I'm gonna change this. Maybe I'll do one as my Instagram. I think I have the same username on Instagram. And then I'm gonna do the same thing for Twitter. So I have like Twitter. Cool. I'll pause a second there because just give y'all a time to add links. But honestly, don't even worry if you only have one link. You can just add more later. So first I'll get when you have time, could you look into my GitHub and give feedback? Yeah, definitely. I can do that. Let's just talk about that offline. I think it'll be easier for me to get that feedback. But yeah, definitely I can take a look. So someone asked, why do you need a list inside an unordered list? Can't you just do divs inside? Yeah, so that's a really good question. And we're getting into something that's like, it's like there's no right answers here. Like, so what you suggested using just divs, absolutely, that could totally work. And that's the thing about HTML. It's tricky because there are multiple ways to do the same thing. So in this example, right, we could use divs instead of links or instead of lists, etc. And all I would say to that is like, it doesn't usually matter what tag you use. You just generally want to choose something that's like more readable. Like if you put yourselves in the shoes of, let's say you look at this file 6 months down the line, you want to be able to look at it and be like, why did I call it this, right? And just with divs is a little, like divs are more generic than lists, right? So it's a little bit more clear if you call it a list item. So for HTML, we'll come across this theme a lot where I might do something some way, but in reality, for everything I'm doing here in HTML, there's like multiple ways to do it. And I would just use that framework of like, if I were looking at this code in 6 months, or if I gave this code to someone else, like what is more understandable? That's kind of the heuristic I use. So someone's saying, I'm stuck opening the repository and linking it with my code editor. So let's see if we could dive into that there. So, and just to check off, make sure that we're on the same page. You did create the repository, right? If you go into GitHub Desktop, you should see something like this. And linking it with the code editor. So if you're having trouble with linking the code editor, make sure you have the repository open. And then basically if you hover over up here, you can see the path, basically like where on your computer this project is. You kind of have to like remember where that is. And then in your code editor, try to open that same folder and let me know if that works. And you should see the folder opened in the code editor. Sorry I arrived late. No worries at all. What does the Git attributes under link and bio mean? Yeah, so definitely. So Git attributes is just a file that was auto created by GitHub Desktop. Basically, just to recap for anybody that came in a little late, we used GitHub Desktop to first create a new repository. So basically, you go to add, create a new repository, and we created a new repository called link and bio in our projects folder, and when you do that, when you create that repository that way, it'll automatically create this file. So right now, you don't need to know much about this file. It's just kind of like a Git thing. So for the purposes of today, you can just pretend that this doesn't exist. So someone says, at what location do you copy and paste from? Could you elaborate on that? Maybe I'm not quite understanding the context of that question, but do you mind elaborating on that? Should I send a PM on Discord? Yeah. Send me a DM if you want to like send me the link to your GitHub, and happy to take a look. Today and tomorrow I'm a little busy with like fundraising and stuff, but I can try to take a look over the weekend if that works for you. But I'll definitely keep you posted. Oh, cool. No worries. So hopefully everyone's good. But yeah, just let me know. So right now, just to recap, also, if you are coming in late and you know don't want to kind of type this all from scratch, I can also just copy and paste this. I don't know if I should just copy and paste this in chat. I don't know if it's gonna work. I guess I will. Hopefully, if that's cool with everyone, I'll just copy and paste my code in chat. It's gonna be kind of messy because a lot of the formatting isn't there. But you know, if you just want to kind of quickly have something in your HTML, maybe you don't have time to type this all out, feel free to just like paste that, and hopefully that should work. Okay, cool. So hopefully we're all good. So basically, just to recap what we did, we just laid out the HTML for our website, right? Nothing crazy. We're just doing the basic layout. So now let's open this page in our browser. So to open our page in the browser, the easiest way I would say is to, in VS Code or whatever editor, you should have an option that says like reveal in Finder or like show in Explorer if you're on Windows or something like that. Go ahead and click that. And yeah, you should see the folder that we created and the index.html file we created. And you can go ahead and just drag this file into your web browser. So I'm going to hold the icon. Oops. I might have to switch to an icon view. There you go. Yeah, if you're struggling to drag and drop, try changing the view up there. Sometimes list view is a little fickle. So I'm going to go ahead and drag that into my browser. Don't know if you guys can see that, but yeah, I'm just drag and dropping it. Cool. That's a good idea. Yeah, that would definitely helpful. We scratch our own itch there. Good suggestion. Okay, cool. So you should see something like this, right? Hopefully, you know, thumbs up. You can do thumbs down if you're not quite there. But you know, if we're all overall good, you should have something that looks like this, right? Not that pretty, not that mobile responsive. You know, it's just very simple. But this is one way I like to start out on a basic site, right? Just basically put the layout on the page and then go through and style it. Okay, cool. So hopefully we're all good there. I'm going to go ahead and now we're going to, let's go ahead and also start to create our CSS file, right? So just a recap of last time, CSS is the core building block for styling for web development. And we're just going to go ahead and create a new file called index.css, or it doesn't really matter the name. I just use index generally if I'm just doing one or two files. So index.css. Cool, something that looks like this. And now I'm going to go ahead and start by putting some default styles on the page. So let's say I want to make my whole page like, let's say I want to make my background like black or gray or something instead of white. Let's make our text white. And yeah, let's just go ahead and start there. So remember that the core of CSS, the core like premise of CSS is you select items that are on the HTML. So you like target those elements and then you write rules to style them. So in this case, we're going to style our body, right? Body is like our whole visible page. And we're going to put some basic styles on there to basically add a background color to the whole body, right? We want our whole page to be this color. So to do this, we can do body and then put curly braces, right? So this word body without anything else, just body by itself. The CSS is basically going to look for an element that's called body, which we only have one, and it's going to apply the rules onto that element. So let's just go ahead and start with our background color. So you can use background or background color. It doesn't. They both kind of do the same thing. I'm just going to use background. And then for black, you know, there's many ways to do black. There's the like you can just write the word black, which will give you that color. Or I don't know if you can see this on the right. You see some like a hash and then 0000000. This is what we call a hex code, and you know, there's only so many colors you can come up with just by describing, you know, orange, black, red, etc. If you want kind of more control over the colors, I would recommend using a hex code. So I'm going to go ahead and just replace black with hash 0000000, which is basically the same thing as just writing black. But as you can see, if I hover over it, it gives me this little color picker. If you're not using VS Code, let me know, because this might look a little different. But for VS Code, it looks like by default they include this like color picker. If you just hover over it, and as you can see, I can move it around to make this whatever color I want. This is totally up to you. You can maybe just choose your favorite color. I'm just gonna go with like something a little like blackish red, like dark red, I guess. So it doesn't have to be the exact same hex code, but you know, this is totally up to you. And remember, we have to end this with a semicolon. Okay, so let's save this. And remember that we haven't linked our CSS to our HTML, right? So if I was to go to the HTML page right here and refresh, there's no difference, right? Because we did not link our CSS to our HTML. So to do that, we need to write a link to the style sheet. And you can do that by going to the head tag in the HTML and then type in link. We have to type rel to, is it ref or rel? I think it's link ref. Should probably have this memorized, but oh, it's rel, that's right. Huh. Link rel equals style sheet. And then we're gonna put href. And href, we have to say the name of the index.css file that we're using, or whatever CSS file you're using. So here, I'm just gonna type in index.css. And then I'm gonna go ahead and close this out. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and save this. And then if we refresh this page now, our browser, we should see that our background is this dark maroon color. But I mean, it's gonna be whatever color you set. If you do a different color, then obviously it's gonna be not gonna be this color. Okay, so we made our already not great looking site a little bit uglier. And you know, I think part of that is because we have really dark text on a really dark background, so it's kind of hard to read this text. So maybe instead of using this color, you know, I'm just gonna go back to black. I think black's my favorite color. So I'm gonna set it to black, and then let's just change our color. Let's change our text color, which, as a reminder, that's just the property color. Let's change our text color to white. So we can do color. You can either type white by itself, or if you wanted to use the hex code, white is also FFF. So you can use either the words or the hex code. I'm gonna go ahead and save that. Oh, so someone asked, does CSS link always have to be inserted under head? That's a really good question. I actually don't think so, because I think I've seen the link tag go in the body. Like, I think it would theoretically work, but it's best practice to put it in the head, if that makes sense. Like, I think it will still work if we put it in a body, but it's like standard and best practice to keep that in the head. Cool, no problem. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and save my CSS. I'm gonna go ahead into our web page and refresh it. And as you can see, okay, it looks a little better now, right? It's a little like dark theme. Notice that the links didn't get overwritten, right? The links are still blue because that's like the default look of the links. But don't worry, we're gonna get to styling that in a second. Okay, so we have our text, we have our body, and that's styled. I'm trying to think, what else should we do here? That's probably fine for now for the body. You know, we'll come back and do some additional things later, but we'll just leave this as is. Okay, let's move on to the header, right? We're gonna style the header section, which is basically the image and the text up here. So remember that, like, you know, right now our site looks like this, and you know, link in bio site is very centered, right? Everything is like centered. So we're gonna have to center it, and it's kind of a joke in coding or web development that centering something in CSS is like the hardest thing in the world. And I'm here to tell you that that's not a joke. That's like a serious thing. It's surprisingly difficult to center things. So what I'm about to show you is somewhat advanced, because we're going to talk a little bit about something called Flexbox. This lesson is not dedicated to like going into Flexbox. This is more of a like follow what I do here, and then you'll gradually start to understand it as you do projects. Because Flexbox is complex, and I think it's just not worth like going through the whole definition of Flexbox today. But basically, to sum it up, we're going to use Flexbox to help us center all of our content. So let's do this together. So remember, we want to target our header tag, right? This header tag right here. Let's target it. And to target it, because it's an element name, we can just type in header in our CSS. and put some curly braces. And then this is where we're going to write our styling rules. So to use Flexbox, basically we need to put a display property. So display, colon, and then we're going to put the word flex, semicolon. So just doing by this by itself doesn't really do much, but it allows us to use certain properties in CSS. So one thing about Flexbox is that you can control the direction of elements. So let me use a visual example for this. Let me go ahead and go back to the link in bio site example. Okay, so you notice how like this example right here, it's not like it's not a row, right? Everything is basically in a column. We have the header first, or we have the header, and inside the header we have the image on top of the text, right? So this is what we would call a column direction, right? Because it's the image and the text are not next to each other, they're on top of each other, right? So if they're next to each other, we would call this row. And if they're on top of each other, we call it a column, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and back in our CSS, I'm gonna type in flex direction column. And don't worry, you do not have to memorize all of these, right? It's actually very, very difficult to memorize all of these commands. I'm just showing you like the most reliable, I guess, way to get something to be centered. We're gonna be diving a lot more into Flexbox next week when we kind of revisit CSS and Tailwind. So this is more of a trust me on this here, but cool. So because we want the image and the text to stack up, we're gonna use column. And then to have it actually in the center of the page, this is where we're going to call align items center. Let me make this text a little bigger. Hopefully that's easier to see. Okay, align item center. Okay, let's save this. So we're going to save our file. Let's go into our HTML and refresh it. And voila, as you can see, our text is perfectly, or our header rather, is perfectly centered. And it's because we used Flexbox, and we combined, we used the column layout, and then we aligned the items in the center. There are millions of ways to center something in CSS, so this is not like the end all be all way, but this works for our centered header. Cool. So what else we can do here? Let's also consider that what we're seeing on the left here, right? This is what our website looks like on a browser, like a desktop browser. But what if we want to see what it looks like on our phones? Well, to do that, if you're using Chrome or Firefox, what you can do is right-click on the page, click Inspect. And remember, this will pull up the dev tools, right? This panel on the right, this is the built-in developer tools. And to change this, you can actually, in the dev tools, change this view to be like, what if we were looking at this from an iPhone or an Android or something like that? And to do that, once you have the DevTools open, go ahead and click this icon right here. I don't know if you can see that. Oops. This right here, next to elements. And as you can see, it shrunk our screen down. But what if we want it to be like an actual device, right? This is kind of long, right? I don't think any phones are this long relatively. So what we can do is click dimensions up here on the top left. So this might be kind of hard to see. Let me make that a little bigger. Hopefully it's better. Dimensions, click that. And then as you can see, you'll see a huge list of devices like iPhone SE, iPhone XR, iPhone 12 Pro. As new phones and devices come out, this list is constantly updated by Google. But for now, just choose the device of your choice. Like if you're curious to see what it looks like on tablet, feel free to click like iPad mini or whatever. I'm just going to go with iPhone 12 Pro because that happens to be the phone I have. So it just makes it easier to see. Okay, cool. So this is basically what our site looks like on iPhone 12 Pro. And it's not that great, right? It looked a lot better on desktop. As you can see, it's basically just shrunk our site and made it really hard to read. And yeah, it's pretty small. Definitely, it's pretty small. And the next thing I'm about to show you is absolutely essential if you're making any kind of website that people are going to look up on a website on a mobile device, which for y'all should be basically every website because 60% of website visits are on a mobile device. So you should basically always have this rule in your HTML. And so this is something that we're going to put in the head tag. And this is what we call a meta tag. Specifically, it's the meta viewport tag. There's lots of like documentation on what this tag means, but in plain English, this tag basically says that I want to make this website responsive. Like I want to make it like if I put this website on a mobile device, I don't want to just shrink everything to fit, right? Which is what's happening here on the left. It's gonna make it look a lot more mobile friendly. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and actually close my Explorer just to make this a little bigger, but you know it's still there. Okay, so to type out this tag, it's gonna be a lot of typing. So I'm also gonna just share the snippet in Twitch because once again, this is not something you have to memorize. This is just something you just have to have in your HTML if you're going to build websites from scratch like this. So this tag starts like this: meta name equals viewport, and then you have a content section, which looks really weird. We're not going to get into like all the details of it, also because I myself like don't know all the details of it. It's one of those things that web developers don't really memorize, and we just do. One of those many things. So it looks something like this. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. Oops, I'm going to copy and paste this in the chat because I know this is a long snippet, and there's no reason to memorize that. But I just want to also show you. Let me go ahead and put it in the chat. There we go, something like that. So yeah, go ahead and copy and paste that into your head. I know I don't say I say don't copy and paste, but this is an exception. This is something long, and you can copy and paste. But I want you to observe like after I save this now. And I refresh the browser, boom, right? Now it's no longer super small, right? Now it's actually somewhat legible, at least our header is. And all we did was add this one tag, right? So this just shows that without this tag, the browser by default is just gonna shrink everything that you have on desktop into mobile, which oftentimes is way too small. Having this tag makes it a lot more responsive and easy to view on mobile. Okay, cool. Hopefully we're good there so far. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the CSS, and you know we're not done with our header so much. Maybe what we can do also is so right now our header image is a square, right? And as we'll see in a lot of link in bio sites, it's like a circle. The easiest way to do that is to select the image and add a border radius to it. So border radius is a property in CSS that basically says the radius of the border. I guess like how round is this element going to be is another way of thinking about it. So what we can do to select this image, we could just do IMG to select it, but I'm going to show you a different way of selecting, which is called I think it's called nested selectors, which is basically saying we don't want just any IMG. To be safe, we specifically want the IMG tag, the image, in the header. So yeah, if we just did IMG by itself, like this, this would select all the image tags or IMG tags on our HTML. So we don't really want that because, you know, what if we have more images? Like what if we have icons on our links and stuff like that? You know, then our styles here are going to apply to everything. So to be more specific, I mean, there's many ways of being specific, but the simplest way here is to select header and then use this caret and say image after. So header, basically it's like header greater than the image. And what this tells CSS is that any rule that we put in here is only going to be applied to image tags that are inside a header. So good, that's something to know there. Cool. So we have something that looks like this, and let's go ahead and give this image a width and height, or I guess the width and height is fine for now. We can leave those. Maybe we'll just start by giving it a border radius. So border dash radius colon, and to make something completely round, we do border radius 100%, right? Because something that's round is 100% round, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And then let's also add like a border around the image itself, like maybe a white border, make it stand out a little bit more. So to do that, we can type in border. And border is a weird looking property because there are many pieces to it. And once again, this is not something you memorize. This is just something that you develop over seeing over time, just like practicing it. The first part of border is how wide it is. So if you want a really thick border, you can do like 10 pixels or something. That's like a very big border. For us, we just want a thin border around our image. So I'm gonna do 1 pixel. The second part is the pattern. You can have borders that are like dashed borders. You can have like a solid, just straight line border. We're gonna go with the solid straight line border. So I'm just gonna type in solid. And then the last part of border is the color. It's confusing, right? I know it's weird. That's like, why do we have all of these things in the same line? There are certain properties in CSS that have that aspect, and I guarantee you do not have to memorize these. Also in VS Code, you can hover over these properties, and it shows you like the syntax. See, it says like line width, line style, line color. So the final piece of our border property here is color. So you can type in white if you want a white border, or if you prefer hex codes, you can do like #FFF, and then make sure you put that semicolon there. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and save this, and let's go into our browser and refresh the page. Yay! So you can barely see our white border. Like if you zoom in, you see that? It's like you can kind of see the white border. It's not super clear. Maybe we should do like a different color to make it more clear. Maybe like blue or something. Yeah, choose the blue. Okay, it's a little, yeah, you can kind of see it. It doesn't look that great, but you see our border there, and you see that our image is round. Cool. How are we doing so far? Hopefully we're hanging in there. I know we're close to time, but we're almost there. Let's see what else. Yeah, let's maybe just get to the link section, and then do our deployment, and then we'll have that be the end. And then afterwards we can do some Q&A. But hopefully everyone's doing well there. So let's see. Hey there, how's it going? We're finishing up our session here, but you're welcome to stick around if you do want to follow along. Cool. So we just styled the image. Okay, now let's we can style the text, but you know what? Just in interest of time, we did do a little bit of text last time, so maybe I'll leave it up to the homework for y'all to style the text. This is not the size I want, but I'll just leave it as is. Let's go ahead and jump over to styling our links. Right, so remember in our HTML, our links section looks something like this, right? You have a UL, and then we have LIs in between. So someone asked, like, do you record these sessions? Yes, we do record these sessions. They're on Twitch. They're also on YouTube. If you do want to see YouTube, you can, I think you use the !YouTube command. Not all of them are uploaded to YouTube yet, but I am getting there. Someone asked, do you know live preview add-on of Visual Studio Code? Yeah, I have used it before, but I think it's just out of sheer habit that I'm used to having like the browser open. But yeah, if you like have a smaller screen, I think the live preview add-on it basically puts like a mini browser window in your editor, so it makes the preview a little faster. Cool. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna style the UL tag, right? We basically, remember, our link in bio site currently looks like this, and we want it to look like this, right? We want these links that currently are blue and start with these dots to look more like these boxes right here. Cool. So what we're gonna do is in our index.css, we're gonna go down and we're gonna select our unordered list, which we can do like this, right? We select our UL tag. Let's go ahead and give this, we're gonna have to write some default rules. So once again, this is more like a, we're going through a lot of new terms here, so don't feel overwhelmed if you're not understanding a lot of these terms. So the box sizing border box, this is one of those, like, HTML by itself actually has default styles. And because HTML was designed like, I don't know how many years ago, like 20, 30 years ago, a lot of these styles are kind of outdated. So one way to override like that old look is by using this rule, box sizing border box. To be honest, like I actually don't even, okay, so it specifies the behavior of the width and height properties. I didn't know that. I actually didn't even know for 8 years what this property meant, but I just know it's used for overriding the default. So let's just start off with that. Another thing is by default, as you noticed in our website, our list has dots, right? This is the default style of list items or unordered list, right? It's just those dots as bullet points. We want to get rid of that, right? Because we want our list of links to look more like boxes rather than these dots. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in list style none. Oops, I just misspelled. Oh yeah, one nice thing about VS Code is that it caught that I had a typo, right? I typed in list style, but I really want list style. And once we save this and then refresh our page, we see that our dots have disappeared, right? So it's overwritten the default list style. Cool. Now let's also do the same thing with our header and center our links. And we used flex to center our header. Now I'm going to show you another way to center, which is something that's called like auto margin. So if you type in the margin property, margin is also made up of two parts. Well, it's technically more than that, but if you just have two sections in margin, the first section is how much margin you want on the top, and margin is like spacing basically. And the second section is how much margin is on the sides. And basically, if you put auto as one of the margins, it'll put it in the middle. So if you put margin, or if you put auto as the first word, then it will put in the center of the page, or like the middle of the page vertically. If you put auto as the second word, it'll put it into the middle of the page horizontally, which is what we want, right? We want to horizontally center this. So someone asked, what does border box do again? Yeah, honestly, so let's hover it here. I think border box, I don't have an exact definition. All I know is that this rule, box sizing border box, it overwrites some of the default rules that HTML has. As what exactly it does, I don't actually know. I've gone like 8 years of my career without actually knowing the meaning of this. So I don't want to say it's not important, but it's not as important as knowing the other properties. Oh, that's a good answer. It changes the width and height, I believe, since HTML has automatic sizing. Yes, that's a lot better way of explaining it. Thank you, Poppy Bling. But yeah, it's one of those like, overwriting the old HTML rules essentially. Cool. So hopefully we're good there. And I'm going to go ahead and save this. And let's refresh our page. See what it looks like. Oh, I think I forgot one thing. We also want to put some padding on our links to push it more in the middle. So I'm going to put padding, and I'll put 2 EM. So one other thing is that there's many different measurements in HTML. There's like pixel, which I think some of y'all might have seen, like pixel, and then you have something that looks like this, EM. The difference between the two is like pixels are each pixel of a screen, right? It's like an absolute unit. EM, I forgot what EM stands for, but EM is more relative. So when it comes to doing responsive design, and once again, almost every website and project we'll be building from now on is going to be responsive because we want it to look good on a mobile site. I would highly advise you to stay away from PX. There are exceptions, of course, but generally when you are designing something responsive, you want to use EM or REM. And this is because these measures are relative. Like EM and like pixels are going to be the same across all devices. EM are kind of like is relative to the screen size. So it's a little bit more ephemeral unit. Okay, cool. I like that's good to know. I actually did not know what EM stood for, but yeah, it's basically a relative sizing. What's the conversion like? Is EM equals PX? So the conversion is kind of difficult here because PX is more of like, PX is the absolute measure, right? Like this screen, for example, is 390 PX by 844 PX, right? But EM is different because 2 EM on this screen size is going to be a lot bigger than 2 EM on a big screen size. So I think it depends, but maybe there is a conversion. But I always thought it was like a relative thing, but maybe I'm thinking percentage. But yeah, someone shared a link to that conversion. Oh yeah, I guess that tool can also be very helpful for conversion. But just for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to go with EM. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and so that's our UL. Now our links still look kind of ugly and default. So let's overwrite those as well. So remember, we want to select, we could just select LIs, but in this case, let's do the same thing that we did up here with our header, in our image, I mean, and select the LI in the UL. So we have to type UL first, caret, and then LI. And this will select all the link list elements in the unordered list. Okay, so we want our links to be boxes, right? We want those to be like basically, let's just say white, like boxes with white backgrounds. So first I'm gonna put a background color to be white, or FFF or FFFF, they're all the same. And then let's also round the borders a little bit. Excuse me, I don't want it to be completely circular, but let's add a little bit of roundness to our boxes. So we can do border radius, and maybe let's just do like 5 EM for now. Once again, for homework, we'll be playing around with these values a lot, so don't worry if it's not the exact same. Okay, we're also going to put some padding, right? Because if we look at our mock-up here, the padding is basically the distance, like how far off this text is from the edges. Like that's what the padding pushes it inwards. So if we just put padding, say like 1 EM, this will put 1 ephemeral unit worth of padding across all sides. So it's going to put 1 EM worth of padding on the top, 1 EM on the bottom, 1 EM on the side, or 1 EM on the left, 1 EM on the right. So it's kind of just like push it in. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do is this is where we're going to also want to center our links. Like our links, we want to be in the center of our page. So for now, let's go ahead and just do margin 0 auto, the same as above. And remember, margin 0 auto is another quick way to kind of center things in the middle of the page. Or sorry, horizontally center, not vertically center. Vertically centering something is a whole other beast that we're not going to cover today. Cool. And just for fun, let's also put like a box shadow. Box shadow is a little more complex of a property, but it's going to add a slight like shadow underneath the element. So for now, you can just follow, like you can play around with these values to know exactly what they mean. But for now, I'm just going to write like 0, space 0, 0.5 EM, 000A. Shadows are something that's definitely complex in CSS. If you do want to dive more into like what these all mean, feel free to just like hover over the syntax and check out the NDN reference, because they will give a lot better explanation than I can. I am not an expert in CSS, and yeah, there's just so many things that like I just go through the motions and I really don't know the deep intricacies of what it means. But feel free to play around with these values, and we see that the last property here is the color. Okay, now another thing about our text is that our text here on our links is aligned to the left, right? But in our mockup, it's centered, right? The text is centered. So we can change this by doing text align center. So this will change it from left to center. Cool. I think that's good for now. Let's go ahead and save this. So I'm saving it, and let's go ahead and refresh our page. Whoa, not bad, right? Now our links are still blue. We'll get to changing that in a second, but at least the boxes around the links are, they look a little better. They're a little close together though, right? As you can see, they're kind of overlapping. What if we want to put some spacing in between? Maybe the easiest way to do that is to basically add vertical margin, right? Remember that the first part of margin here is vertical margin, and the second part is horizontal margin. The horizontal margin we set auto because we want it to be in the middle. That's by default, it puts that in the middle. But if we add maybe like 1 EM here of vertical margin and save it, let's go ahead and refresh the page. As you can see, it's stopped stacking up, right? It's put 1 EM worth of margin in between the elements. So you feel free to play around with this if you're not satisfied with the spacing. But for now, this is pretty decent. This is pretty decent for me. Okay, we're almost done here. Last bit of styling we'll do before we deploy our site and call it for today is we're going to style our links. So let's go ahead and do the same thing, but this time remember that we want to style our A tags, and we want to style the A tags that are inside the link, or sorry, the list tag that is inside the UL tag. So we can actually do two carets here. We can do UL caret li caret A, right? A is the anchor link tag, basically. So this will allow us to select all the links inside right here. It will allow us to select this, this, and this. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. So remember, we want to overwrite this default link. But by default, HTML has certain rules, and the link tags, they all are blue and they're all underlined. Let's get rid of both, right? We don't want it to be blue and we don't want it to be underlined. So let's deal with the color first. So what we can do is just type in color. Remember, color is text color, and then do black. And then to get rid of the text decoration, as they call it, basically the underline is a form of the text decoration, as they call it. So what we can do is type in the text decoration property and set that equal to none. Cool. Let's go ahead and save this and refresh our page. Yay. Nice. So now our HTML or our link in bio site looks a lot more like a real link in bio site, right? There's a lot more we can do here, and I just realized that my box shadow doesn't even show up because my background's black, so whoopsies. Maybe if we change our background to something else, it's going to be a little easier to see. Like maybe I change it to gray. Okay, yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but it's like very faint. You can see slight shadow there, but I kind of like the black, how it looks better. Oh well, not important. I'll let you guys mess around with the styling of your site on your own. But the basic idea here is I just wanted to put a very basic link in bio site. It's far from perfect. There's a lot of improvements we can make. Maybe one thing that's slightly bothering me is that the image is really close to the top. I like a little bit more white space. So what we can do is, we could do this rule on either the image or the header itself. Let's do it on the header. Let's put a margin top. So margin top is like a form of margin that specifically only applies to spacing at the top. So whatever we put here is the spacing that the header is going to have from the top of the page. So here, let's just do 1em, semicolon. Let's just see what that looks like. So we save. Let's go in our browser and refresh. Okay, as you can see, it moved it down a little bit. Maybe I want a little bit more than that, right? Let's crank it up to like 4. Save that, refresh. Okay, that's a little bit better, right? It bothers me less. Not 100% satisfied with the design yet, but this will do for now. Okay, how's everyone doing so far? Hopefully you all have something that's somewhat similar to this. Remember, if we do go a little fast, feel free to just refer to recording. Hopefully that can help out, but hopefully everyone's like pretty good. Cool. Now let's get into the fun part. Let's take this website live. Right, we did a little bit of this last Thursday, and I kind of rushed through it, so I apologize. Today, we're going to do it a little more of the real way, I guess, and we're going to use GitHub Desktop. So remember, in the beginning, we created this as a GitHub repo, but we haven't actually pushed this code onto GitHub, right? And if I go into my github.com, even though we created, oops, I'm logged in on a different browser, I guess, but actually I should probably log in really quick because I'll need it for the demo. Sorry, I should have logged in ahead of time, but let me go ahead and log in. Don't look at my password. Wait, you can see my password. Oh no, let's try again. No hacking, please. Oh, I forgot my password. No. Okay, we're good. All right. Super secret. That would have been bad if I forgot to turn on my keylogger. That would have been pretty hilarious. I would wake up and all my GitHub stuff is gone. I gotta do my. Okay, we're good now. Oh no, really? Oh god, that's pretty scary. Okay, so this is my GitHub. If you see on my repositories, like the link in bio site that we made is not here. He has stolen all my skills. No, that's all I have. But as you can see, like, yeah, the repository that we just made is not here. So we need to actually like push the code onto GitHub, right? So we have this code on our local computer right here, and we need to actually like push it onto GitHub. So let's hop back over into GitHub Desktop. And you should, in GitHub Desktop, you should see something that looks like this now. If you've been following along, you should see that we have 2 changed files, right? And it shows that we created the index.css file, and it has the contents of that file. And you should also see that we have our index.html file. So what we have to do first, basically the Git flow, and we're going to get this to a lot more detail when we like actually do the Git deep dive next week or 2 weeks from now, is the flow is you make changes, and you commit them, and then when you're ready to actually have the changes pushed to GitHub, then you push it. So make changes, commit, push. So that's the flow here. So for committing, basically a commit, you can think of it as like in video games, maybe we could think of it as like a save file, right? It's basically saying like, hey, here's a saving point, right? So one thing that GitHub makes you do is you have to include a summary. So typically in a real, like if you're working at a company, let's say you're at Airbnb and you like change a background style, like maybe your commit message would be something like this, like changed background style. And remember, the naming here doesn't matter. It's really just for other developers that you're working with to see, just to make it super clear, like what we changed in this code. I'm lazy here, so you can just basically type first commit, or maybe like initialize site, right? Because we basically just initialize the site. I don't know, one of those two, it doesn't really matter. But you basically want to fill out the summary and then click commit to main. Okay, so once you commit the main, you see that no more files have been changed, and that's because our changes have been saved to the commit. And now, when you can make multiple commits, right? Like, let's say we commit, we make more changes. Let's say, like, I don't know, I changed like a font or something. Every time you make changes, you have to commit. And then when you actually want them to update on GitHub, you push. Once again, it's pretty confusing. Git is not easy, but this is the basic Git workflow I want us to get used to. Okay, so now that I've committed it, now we need to publish or push our repository, right? So this is our first time publishing or putting our repository on GitHub. We need to publish it. So go ahead and click this publish button. And then it's going to give you this option like, oh, do you want to, I'm going to leave the name the same. You can change the description if you want, doesn't matter. Don't keep it private because I don't know if we can publish private sites onto GitHub pages, which is what we're going to use to deploy it. So don't make sure that this is not checked. And yeah, that should be it. So go ahead and click publish. Okay, cool. So our code is published. And to prove this, if we go back to my GitHub and I refresh repositories, yay, we see our link in bio site that we just made is now on GitHub. Yay. So now our work is saved to the cloud. So even if my computer randomly blows up or like, I don't know, it gets lost somewhere, it's not lost because I have a copy of this code on the cloud. So I can just download it whenever. So yay. Okay, so we're almost there. The final stretch we're going to do is we're going to publish this on GitHub Pages. So if you're here for last Thursday's session, this might be somewhat familiar. But if you weren't, no problem. We're going to walk through it together. So go ahead and click on Settings. If your screen's smaller, it might show up as like, it might be like obscured under these 3 dots. But I'm going to go ahead and click Settings. All right, once you're in Settings, go ahead and go to the left side and click on Pages. It's going to be down here under Code and Automation. Okay, so once you're in Pages, basically we need to choose the branch of GitHub that we're going to need to connect to. Okay. We're going to get to all the definitions of branch and all those weird words later, but basically we're connected to the main patch. Yeah, see you later. See, we're basically done here, so no worries. But yeah, go ahead and just click the main branch, which is the main branch of our project. Go ahead and save it. And boom, that's all we need to do. Now to check, like GitHub basically is automatically deploying our site. It's not ready yet though, and we can check on its progress by clicking on this Actions tab right here. So click on Actions, and you see that this workflow is now running. right? So pages, build, and deployment. So now it's taking our website and putting it on the internet for anybody to look at. So, this might take like a minute or two. It just depends on how busy GitHub is. Honestly, if a lot of people are using GitHub at once, sometimes this takes a long time. So let that run. I'll check back on this. The build's done, but the deploy might take a little longer. Let's see. I guess the final, while we're letting this build, even though it looks like it's about to be done, maybe the final thing I'll end on is, let's say we want to change our, where do we go into settings? Oh yeah, so sorry about that. I kind of rushed through that. Click on settings right here and then go to pages. So under code and automation, the section right here, let me make this a little bigger. Yeah, there we go. So code and automation and pages. And to answer, yeah, so Hash asked, was the branch main? Yes, the branch is called main, I think. So click on pages and then go to this branch area and then make sure you select main instead of none. And then click save, and then it should start deploying it. Cool. Awesome. So hopefully we're good there. Let me know if you're still having issues. But if all is good, when you click on actions, you should see a green check once it's completed. It looks like it took mine 52 seconds total, so not too bad. And on the deploy section, you can see that there's a link to your website. So if you click on this link or open up it on your phone, it's going to work. So, I'm not on a phone, so it looks kind of funky. But if you open up on a phone, it should look more like a real link in bio site. So Poppy asked, where do I find the homework? Yeah, so I haven't updated a Notion with the homework yet. I'll actually go ahead and share it with everyone right now because we're basically done with the main session here. There's a lot more bonus stuff you can do, but basically the homework is like pretty straightforward this time. Let me go ahead and make this bigger. So yeah, today, if you're, no worries at all. If you are watching this as a recording, or maybe you weren't able to follow along, it's not a problem. Basically, the homework is to basically go through this exercise of building this link in bio site from scratch. Feel free to use the recording to follow. And then if you've already done that and you want to go above and beyond, I encourage you to make it your own, right? Like do things like, make it actually pretty. Like I can't say my design is pretty amazing for this site, so go ahead and play around with colors, play around with different fonts. If you want a full tutorial of making a really nice looking site and you enjoy ASML programming, I encourage you to check out this video, Davis Lice's video. He's like a Japanese a developer, and his videos are amazing. He doesn't talk, but he still explains like every step, and his keyboard typing sounds nice. So I'll share that in the chat too. Oh yeah, Davis Lice is great. They're so relaxing. But he has a really good video that basically covers all of this link in bio stuff, but it does a lot more than what we did today. So someone said, can you repeat the steps where after submitting through Get Desktop? Yeah. Happy to go back through that. Let me go ahead and just finish this homework slide really quick, but then happy to catch back up on that. So another thing is, so if you've gone through to the link in bio site, and you've done some styling of your own, you're pretty much ready. But for next week, just to give you a preview, we're going to be diving into Tailwind CSS, which is a CSS framework. We're going to be talking a lot more about Git and also the terminal. So a little bit more like advanced dev tooling stuff, but it's going to be very helpful when we get into JavaScript, which is the next big section. So I have some YouTube videos here for homework that are really simple intros. They're Fireship videos. If anybody watches Fireship, I really like his channel for really quick intros, and he breaks things down very well. So just go ahead and check those. How can I access this section homework? Yeah, so honestly, normally if you go to !Notion, this Notion contains all of the units of our bootcamp, and in each unit is where you can find the homework. That being said, this homework isn't there yet. So if you click the HTML CSS, maybe like 30 minutes from now and refresh, the homework will be available there. But the easiest way is also just to if you just want them right now, you can also use !slides, and this will give you this slideshow, which also has the link to the homework. So apologies, I'll do a better job of prepping the Notion next time. I didn't get that done ahead of time, but for now you can go into the !slides command, and that will give you, that will show you where the homework is. Cool, no problem. And yeah, so basically I just want you to watch these intro videos. We'll give you a very high level overview of what we're gonna be focusing on. And also, if you do want to download a terminal, I recommend you download this one called Hyper. It works for Mac, Windows, Linux. It looks really nice. It looks very hackery. You can style it. I just like nice looking software. I mean, you can use any terminal you want, but Hyper to me is like the nicest looking. Okay, cool. So that's the homework stuff. I'm gonna go back and answer some questions that I kind of didn't get to cover. So someone asked submitting through Get Desktop. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and see. So you did after you committed, right, in Git, and then you like published it, and you're asking kind of the steps after that, right? So basically, oh, excuse me. Okay, cool, no problem. So what you want to do is go to your GitHub account, and yeah, when you go to your GitHub account and then click on your repositories, you should see your link in bio site there. Let me know if it's not showing up there. But if you published it, it should be in GitHub. So hopefully you're good there. And once you click on your GitHub page, and once you click on your GitHub repo, go ahead and go to settings. So settings right here. Yeah, so let me know when you're in settings. And basically, once you're in settings, you want to go down to under the section called Code and Automation. You want to click on Pages. So let me know if I'll pause here for a second, but yeah, let me know if once you've opened this Pages link. I can also just share the. Oh, I guess this doesn't work. Yeah, just click on this Pages link. Okay, don't notice in repositories. No worries. That might mean that, let's see. So your GitHub desktop, if your GitHub desktop is logged into your GitHub account, do you see? Let's see. I guess just to double check the steps here, were you able to commit? Like, were you able to click this button and commit? Okay, cool. So we committed it. What about publishing? I know that, well, my screen looks different now, but there should be something that's like publish this repository to GitHub. Were you able to click that as well? Okay, no worries. Yeah, it might be a login issue. Do let me know if that continues. But once it's published and you have the repository, yeah, you can just go to the settings and then pages, and I can walk you through those final steps. Cool. I'm trying to think what else to cover here, but yeah, do let me know if we have any last questions. I guess we can spend like maybe 5-10 minutes after for Q&A, but that's basically the bulk of today's session. As always, thank you all for sticking through it. I know today was like faster paced than Tuesday. Well, hopefully it helps to kind of see all of this kind of come together in a kind of a real project. You can use the ! feedback command to basically get the anonymous feedback form. It's optional, of course, but feedback has been super helpful here as to how we can always continue to improve each stream. So if you do have some thoughts or just want to fill in a feedback form, go ahead and type in that command. So Poppy asks, do we submit homework into Discord or wait for next stream? Yeah, so honestly, we don't have a strict homework policy right now since a lot of this is like self-paced. We do have a homework channel in our Discord, which is where people have been submitting just homework, just optionally. So yeah, it's one of those things. The homework is really just for you to do on your own. But if you do want to like get feedback on it or show off to others, then feel free to share that in the homework homework channel in Discord. Okay, so the repository is populated. I see the link in bio site. Awesome. So you see it now. Okay, so once you're in settings at pages, I'm guessing this is where you are now. Go ahead and click branch, go to this branch section right here. And make sure you select the main branch. So it should, like by default, it should be set to none. You want to select the main here and then click save. So So let me know once you've done that. And you'll know it's working once you've saved it and you go to actions. You go to actions here and you should see something running, like something spinning. When it's spinning, that's how you know your site's being updated. So yeah, for sure. Hope I get the subscribe button soon. Yeah, definitely. I think after today, actually, we should be eligible for affiliate. So fingers crossed there. But yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, we already answered this, but if the code is updated and we commit from, oh, sorry, I missed your question. If the code is updated and we commit from GitHub, desktop is the GitHub link automatically updated. Yeah, so Poppy had a good answer for that. It's the GitHub link. I believe the GitHub link, like if I click on the deployment, this link right here, if that's what you're asking, I think this link name is correlated with two factors. It's like your GitHub username, right? So my GitHub username is ZCKLY, so that's not going to change. But the project name is the second part of this link. So I think, I actually haven't confirmed this, but if you change the repository name, or maybe there's a setting in here. Yeah, maybe if you change the repository name and republish, it might be at a different link. But essentially, like every time you make a change, every time you make a change to your site, it should stay the same link, right? So remember, let's say we've deployed the site now, but let's say I go and make a change. Let's say I change my background back to black, right? Black. Let's say I make this change, right? What I'm gonna do is save this, right? I save my code. I'm gonna open up GitHub Desktop again, and yeah, as you can see, it says I've made this change, right? Before. Oh, I actually changed the color here too. Whoopsies, let me do that. Let me go back. Okay, so as you can see, yeah, I made some changes here. It says I used to be gray, and now it's black. So every time you make a change like this, go ahead and commit it. So commit, and then publish, or push, sorry. So commit, or the flow is make changes, save, commit, and then push. So once you push it, okay, so we just pushed it, and now if we go back to our actions, every time we push a change to main, because that main is connected with our website link, if you click on actions, you can see that I have another workflow now, right? Because this is like, I've just made another change, and it's now updating my site with this change. So it's still gonna be at the same link, but that's the flow you should go through if you wanna make changes. Cool, yeah, definitely. Saying you have to upgrade from the free version. But for Bread Girl, is there a chance that your repository is private? If you kind of look at your repository here, does it say public or private? Because if it's private, that might be the issue there. Because this should all be available on the free plan. So let me know if it's private. So Harasuna asks, can we have multiple pages? Yeah, you can definitely have multiple pages. We didn't get the chance to show that today, but just really, where do I look again? Yeah, so if you go to GitHub, yeah, if you go to the GitHub up here, I'm trying to do my best to like circle over it. Right here next to the repo name, there should be a badge that says like public or private. If yours says private, that might be, it's private. Okay, no worries. I think all you need to do is go into settings. And I'm trying to remember where this is. Okay, yeah. So go to settings, basically. If you made your repository private, no worries. It's pretty straightforward to fix. All you need to do is go to settings right here. Scroll all the way down into the danger zone. Kind of scary, but don't worry. It's not that dangerous here. Go ahead and click change visibility. This top button right here of danger zone. Mine's already public, so it's going to give me the option to change to private, but for you, it should let you change it to public. Let me know if that works for you, because then you should be able to go through all these steps again. Cool. Sorry. So let me go back to Harasuna's question. Can we have multiple pages? Yeah, definitely. So as a really quick example of it, like let's say we create a new index. I'm just going to basically copy and paste the same page because I'm lazy. I don't want to like type one from scratch. Let's say you have an about page, right? So what you can do is create a new HTML page called about the HTML. And I'm just going to paste like, I'm just going to give it like a different name. Let's say about page. yeah, I'm just going to delete my links, I guess. Something like this. So let's say you have a new page like this. You can just create about.html. And remember, we make our changes. We go into GitHub Desktop. We see that it's noticed we've changed the file, right? We've created a new file called about. Just commit it, publish it, or push it. Okay. Awesome. No, glad that worked. Yeah, let me know if you still want me to go back through the deployment stuff. But yeah, so once we've pushed that new page up, let's go to our code. You can see that now we have our about page. Let's wait for that deploy. Yeah, so it's starting our third deployment now since we made another change. But once this deployment's up, we should be able to access our page by going to that link that it gives us /about by default. So let's give it a second. Maybe give it 20, 30 seconds. Let me also go through the chat, make sure there's no other questions I missed here. Okay, cool. So it's deployed. I'm going to go ahead and click on my link, a beautiful link in bio, which doesn't look that great on desktop. I think if I go to /about, so if you check out my address bar right here, right, this is my link. I'm going to type in about. I wonder if they do about.html. Let me try just about and see if this works. Okay, so it works with about, right? Since my page is called about.html, all I need to do is add /about, and then I go to my about page, right? So in my, let's say I want to link to this page in my index.html, I'm gonna have to put a link to the /about page, but this is how you can add and go to multiple pages. So hopefully that makes sense. Okay, cool. It looks like we're, yeah, we'll give maybe like 5 minutes for any other final questions, but really that's basically everything that we're gonna cover today. You would add an anchor tag for the new page. Yeah, definitely. You would add a new anchor tag and then put the href as /about. Exactly. Yeah, or a /about. Yeah, /about would take you there. So yeah, just to recap, this is the homework. I'm gonna upload the Notion right after this. I apologize for not doing that earlier. If you do want to get the homework now, go ahead and just put the slides command like so, and that will give you the link to these slides. But yeah, that's pretty much it. For sure. Have a good night, everyone. I think that's basically it. I'll stick around for a few more minutes, but yeah, feel free to also fill out the feedback form if you do want to give feedback. But yeah, totally optional. Cool. Yeah, thank you, everyone. I will see you all on Tuesday for more advanced CSS stuff. Awesome. Thank you all. Would it be cool if you watched me attempt it? Yeah, for sure. I'm down to do that. I think it's easiest for me to do that async. If you do a quick recording or screen recording of yourself and send that over, happy to take a look at that sometime this weekend. Cool. Awesome. Thank you all. All right, take care, y'all. Bye. Wait, I just realized my camera's over here. I keep looking at my other monitor. Oh wait, it's so dark. I always forget to turn my light on. There we go. All right, hopefully I get an affiliate now. Oh, sorry. Yeah, good question. Office hours. Yeah, I'm down. I think this week is a little busy. I'm deep in the fundraising cycle, which has not been super fun. I'm pretty introverted, and fundraising is a lot of things that involves a lot of meetings and chatting with people. I might do one tomorrow. Actually, tomorrow might be tricky. I think I'll do one on Monday if that's cool. I think I'll probably skip the Friday one this week. But Monday I'll do an office hours, so hopefully that works for y'all. But yeah, I'll put an announcement for that in the Discord. That's a good call. All right, cool, everyone. I will probably sign off now. I have to go eat dinner. But yeah, thank y'all for coming. Good session. Bye.